Yo, what up? This is A-Trak, and you're watching Magic Rabbit Productions.
So the Q&A with DJ Beatstreet, and today I have the one and only DJ A-Trak. A-Trak, what's going on?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm
Good.
just observing the pink cover.
Oh, yes, the
I'm not
infamous. Thank you. The infamous, pink iPad cover.
Uh-huh.
You just shut down the Roots Picnic,
It's fun, man.
and now you're about to shut down Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Any surprises for tonight?
David Hasselhoff is supposed to come up.
A word.
Do like a surprise MC thing.
With the red shorts on.
Yeah. He's
Awesome.
gonna wear like a corset.
Let's talk about what is next for A-Trak. I know that you dropped the Tune 'Em Out EP along with the remixes.
Yep.
Is this something, for us to see a bigger project come along? Maybe an album, some other stuff?
Well, the main on the album side, main thing that's been on my plate lately is just finishing up the Duck Sauce album, which is pretty much there. So there's a new single coming out at the end of June, full album, around back to school.
Okay.
And then as far as like the Tune 'Em Out EP and my A-Trak stuff and that whole vibe, there's probably gonna be like another EP in that vein later in the year, before I start working on an A-Trak album. So I'm happy to continue doing EPs for a little while just for my stuff, because there's so many different types of tracks that I like to do, and I just like bang them out, and I want to just give them to fans and the DJs. And as far as an album, to me it has to be really conceptual and like all fit together. So that's what we're doing on the Duck Sauce side. On the A-Trak side, I'm just like churning out music. There's a couple new remixes that I'm finishing up right now, and more production with other artists as well.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask about the Duck Sauce, because the camp has been pretty quiet. People have been waiting ever since Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the same sound? Is it going to be something new?
I mean, for me, it all sounds like Duck Sauce, but every track is sort of a different take on it. It's obviously still very sample heavy, and I guess the common thread is it's all kind of silly.
True.
But like when we first started our first releases, like Anyway and those singles, it was like sort of like the disco house thing, but it's not really disco anymore. Now it's just like finding the most ridiculous loops, really, but in any genre. I think the single might surprise people a bit, but to me it definitely still sounds like Duck Sauce.
Okay. And is there a name of the new single that we should be looking for?
Yeah, but we're gonna announce it in a couple of days.
Okay. To be continued. On the Fool's Gold roster, I see you have artists like Frostadamus, and they've been pretty instrumental in the current trap movement that's been happening in EDM, and they're moving on to twerk now. I've seen some material coming out. In your opinion, where do you think that the whole hip hop and EDM mashup thing is going?
I mean, I just think that I'm mainly concerned with like what the fans enjoy, and what I'm seeing more and more is that kids kind of consume everything, and like you can put a label on something, but now it's getting a little ridiculous because there's the name for a genre, for per BPM range. Like, to me, the twerk thing is not different from trap. It's not because it's 100 BPM that you have to call it something different than when it's at like 70 to 80 or whatever. So I'm just happy that hip hop fans are opening their minds and ears to electronic music more, and electronic fans are down to hear hip hop sounding stuff too. And it's that sort of like convergence is something that I've been trying to encourage and push towards for years, even when I was doing like those Dirty South Dance mixtapes like 6 years ago. So I'm just happy to see it happening. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And speaking about hip hop, Fool's Gold dropped Lucy's.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know about the project, or those who thought that you guys were strictly electronically dance driven, what's the project about?
Lucy's is just a rap compilation. It's pretty simple. Like we've been rap's been a big part of Fool's Gold since the start. I mean, if you go back to the first year of the label, we were messing with from Kid Sister to Kid Cudi and Adonis. There was like a whole range from like from club rap to just like straight up rap.
Right.
And then with Danny Brown in the last 2 years, it's definitely brought a whole new breath of fresh air um, to that, side of the label. And more recently, Grande Marshall, who's actually from here in Philly,
Oh, nice.
and messing with Danny and Grande, I think has really, um, brought us very close to a whole new generation of young rappers, and it's like very gritty. It's not people who make stuff, especially for the radio or whatever. It's more like just a return to the underground. And also, I think a lot of the events that I do, like our day off events, we always book, rap headliners from French Montana to Juicy J to Ghostface and guys like that. And that has really brought us close to, that whole scene. Guys like Action Bronson and the ASAP guys and all that stuff. Those guys come to all our shows. So we decided to do Lucy's last year, just because there was so many people just sort of in the larger family, Troy Ave and guys like that, main attractions, all those kinds of dudes. So we decided to put together a compilation where we could, assemble dudes that we're cool with, casting a wider net than just simply who's signed to the label.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's good because like you said, now you have your EDM kids who are open to hip hop, and now you have hip hop people listening to dance sounds within their music brought to you by this label, and it's a good combination.
Yeah, I mean that comp, we weren't even thinking about it that much on that level. It was just like, hey, let's put out 20 good rap songs. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let's talk pop culture.
Sure.
You wrote in your Huffington Volume 4 post, the License to Pill situation. You spoke about drugs and the explosion of Molly, Perp, Scissor, and you even went into explaining the instances with Wayne and Pimp C, AM, rest in peace. And I want to quote you because I like how you ended the piece where you were like, my stance is we can rap about it, but let's talk about it. What conversations should either the everyday person or at least other celebrities or rappers who are speaking about this, what conversations should we be having?
I mean, I just think that people should be a little bit more aware and vocal about what all this stuff represents. I'm not anti-drug at all. I don't do drugs myself, but I love drug rap. You know what I mean? Like, I listen to Juicy J all the time, and like Danny Brown is on my label, and he is Mr. Molly and Adderall and all that stuff. That's what he's been rapping about since the start. It's more a question of like, people are enjoying these records, and everybody was singing along to the Trinidad James line last year, but then Wayne has seizures, almost dies, and no one's really talking about the fact that it's due to syrup. Like, no one's really saying like, well, we're enjoying these songs, but it also involves that dudes might die. So like, what I mean? Like, no, people aren't really having the full conversation.
Took a blind eye to it, and no one really cares.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't think the solution is to tell people like stop doing it, because they're not gonna stop. And I think if dudes want to do it in moderation, that's fine. And it's sort of like their decision. But like, when someone goes and like almost dies and shit, like, let's at least acknowledge that this is part of what's happening, because there's good and bad sides to it.
I think maybe the drugs should start calling like a Surgeon General's warrant on them.
I mean, dudes know what they're doing, but it's but when I say let's talk about it, let's also talk about the good sides. Like, it's I think there's a whole generation that I wouldn't say it's because of drug use, but just in a larger scope, I think this current generation has much more of an open mind than what we saw in hip hop for like 20, 30 years prior to that.
True.
And all this experimentation is probably like part of just a bigger phenomenon happening. So, I think people should just be aware of these changes that are happening in the culture and what the good and bad sides are.
Definitely. And also, pop culture thing, or more of a DJ nerd question too, since everybody's becoming a DJ because of the explosion of Serato and Ableton and everything else. And I know that you were pretty instrumental a couple years back in getting Serato up to the platform where they're at.
Yeah.
They even put out a Fool's Gold Serato pressing. But we go out and see you live, and every now and then, see you on the tractor.
Yeah.
And I know that there's no bad blood, but between any of the companies or anything
Uh-huh.
with you. But why the switch? What did you like better in the tractor program than as Serato?
I mean, I think it's kind of a personal preference. I was very tied in with Serato for years. I was actually their very first endorsee ever. Um, so for me, it was a big decision to try messing with Tractor because I was really closely tied in with Serato. But I think Serato's great for uh, for a lot of types of DJing in the sense that it's really reliable and plug and play, and you don't have to think about it too much when you're playing. But if you want to get a bit more technical with certain aspects of your DJing, I think Tractor just offers a few more tools. So it depends if you want that or not. I'm a very technical DJ,
Yes.
and it gave me, some tools that were interesting. So I started messing with it more. But I still recommend Serato to a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your technicality, your show sets, they're amazing.
Thank you.
And I know you put in a lot of work and everything, and you've won the DMC World Championship and everything. Now with the technology coming out, controllers, launch pads, do you think the art of turntablism is going to fade away?
No, I don't think so. I just think it's sort of adapting,
Okay.
I think I'm happy to see that there's a lot of up and coming current DJs that are still using turntables. I think a lot of people are still attached to that craft, and there's certain things that you can do with turntables that you just can't really do otherwise. So it's no longer the only way to DJ. A lot of people can play great sets without Technic 1200s, but for instance, I've been judging a lot of the Red Bull freestyle competitions, and it's really cool to see the younger crop of DJs that are coming up that are using 12s, that are scratching and that are making creative sets. And it's like, I think there's a bit of a stigma with turntablism where people associate it with a sort of like an older tradition of DJing, but there's a lot of DJs that are very much up to the current styles and trends that are able to freak it on 1200s. So it's not like using 12s doesn't mean that you have to be like this old school guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, there's a lot of ways to do it currently, and there's a lot of new tools that allow you to mix your sort of your setup, your platform with new technology as well, whether it be Serato, Tractor, and just like different controllers, effects setups, and even like keyboards and whatever else you want to include. So
Comes down to the creativity.
yeah, it's I think the thing to avoid is for people to just, if people were to continue thinking that turntablism has to be two 1200s in a mixer. Like, people who think that are stuck in the past. And really, I've seen a lot of DJs who play on CDJs who I consider turntablists. Like, there's a lot of European techno DJs who are so technical with the CDJs, and they do scratch, and they run loops and all this other stuff. That, to me, I look at that and I'm like, man, I wish dudes that use 1200s would watch this and get ideas, because I do. I watch it and I get ideas. So I just think there's a sort of larger definition of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I know you got to go out there and rock this show.
Yeah.
Any last thing that you want to tell people viewing this about Fool's Gold?
We just made some baby clothes. So if you have young toddlers, we have Fool's Gold onesies for your children.
Nice. We need to make some adult onesies too.
Yeah.
Yes.